Sometimes I wonder if she was even real. She did not knock. She did not speak. She just opened the door and got in. It was late, past midnight. The highway was empty, the kind of dark that eats at your eyes when the headlights flicker. I was parked at this old gas station off Route 6, one of those skeleton stations that looks abandoned even when the lights are on. She stepped out from the shadows like a thought I forgot I had. Young, maybe 20, hood up, face hidden, backpack over one shoulder like she had carried it across states. She did not make eye contact, not even a glance. I remember my hand hovering over the lock button, just for a second. She walked up to the passenger side, didn't wave, didn't ask. And I, Michael Whitaker, opened the door. That was the beginning. She sat down slowly, like she belonged there, like she had done this before. Her silence was thick, not uncomfortable, just hollow, like something was missing from the air. She didn't tell me where she was going. I didn't ask. The first mile felt like a test. I glanced over once and caught her staring out the window, eyes locked on the darkness. She didn't blink. The radio crackled, but I left it off. I drove, and for the next hour, maybe more, the road stretched out like a confession waiting to be told. She never said a word, but something about the way she sat, the way she breathed, it stayed with me, still does, because the truth is, I think she knew me. Not in the way strangers sometimes feel familiar. No, she knew who I was. She got in that truck for a reason, and I, like a goddamn fool, gave her the ride she came for. It started like every other run. Same road, same silence. Same cheap coffee burning my tongue as I leaned against the truck door, trying to wake up. I was on the edge of Nevada, one of those stretches where the highway feels like it forgot why it exists. Nothing but dust and wind, and the occasional buzz of an old sodium street lamp trying not to die. The gas station didn't even have a name, just a crooked sign with 2 flickering letters. Maybe once it said Chevron or Phillips, who the hell knows. There were no cars, no cashier in sight, just a vending machine humming louder than anything else around, and a soda can stuck behind the glass like it gave up halfway out. I remember thinking, this place feels like the end of something. I was halfway through checking the tire pressure when I saw her. She was just there, standing near the far pump, not moving, not signaling, just watching, or maybe waiting. Head down, hoodie up, legs tense like she'd been walking for miles and didn't trust the ground anymore. I blinked once, she was still there. She didn't look at me, didn't wave. No damsel in distress act, no fake limp, no backpack full of excuses. Just presence, quiet, dense presence. And then she started walking, slow, deliberate. Every step was a choice, and she was making it straight toward me. I felt it in my gut. Not fear, not curiosity. Something older, colder. Like the air shifted a few degrees as she got closer. I straightened up, wiped my hands on my jeans. She stopped 3 feet from the passenger door. She didn't say a word, not hi, not do you have a phone, not can I get a ride. She just tilted her head slightly, like it was my move. I looked at her, really looked. Couldn't see much. Her hood covered most of her face, and the desert dust had turned her shoes the color of bone. Her hands were clenched, not in fists, just holding tension. I don't know why I said it. Maybe because the silence was pressing in on my chest. You headed somewhere? She nodded, once. Got a long haul ahead. West, California line. If you're going that way, I don't mind company. No answer. I sighed. It's locked. That made her move. She reached for the handle, waited. I pressed the unlock. Click. She climbed in. No hesitation. No thanks. Like she'd done it before. I got behind the wheel, turned the key. The engine roared to life, louder than it needed to be in the stillness of that night. We pulled out onto the highway. She didn't ask where we were going. I didn't ask where she came from. Not yet. The gas station disappeared in the mirror, swallowed by night, and something else settled in its place. The sense that from this moment on, nothing would be the same. She did not fall asleep. Most people do, eventually. The hum of the road, the sway of the truck, the hypnotic rhythm of the lines flicking past under the headlights. But not her. She stayed perfectly upright in the seat, like a statue wrapped in canvas, eyes fixed somewhere out there in the dark. Not watching the road, not watching me, just watching. I tried not to stare. About 30 miles in, I broke the silence. "Name's Michael Whitaker," I said. A little too formal, maybe. Folks usually call me Michael, or just driver if they're in a hurry. No reaction, not even a glance. I kept my hands on the wheel, both hands. Always do that when I'm nervous. Keeps me grounded. "You got a name?" I asked. She didn't answer, not right away. Then quiet, like a voice underwater. "Rachel." The way she said it, like it was borrowed, or like it hurt to say out loud. "Rachel." I repeated it, slow, careful, respectful. Let it settle between us. She didn't respond to that either. I watched the road, thought about turning the radio on, but didn't. She spoke again, out of nowhere. "Do you drive this route a lot?" Her voice was soft, controlled, like someone who'd practiced sounding normal. "Yeah," I said. "Been hauling coast to coast for 15 years. You name it, I've seen it. Mountains, storms, drunks in bathrobes walking across the freeway at 3 a.m. You learn to keep your eyes open." She nodded, slow, deliberate, but still didn't look at me. A pause. Then another question. "You ever pick up anyone before?" That one sat in the air a second longer than it should have. I cleared my throat. "Sometimes, not often, not anymore. People get weird. Had a guy try to sell me his teeth once. Swore they were gold. They weren't." Rachel didn't laugh, just stared ahead. And then something in her tone shifted. Barely, but I felt it. "You always take this exact road? Route 6? I asked. She gave a small nod. "Yeah, usually. Habit, I guess." Another long pause. Her voice came softer this time, more fragile, or maybe more calculated. "You ever been to a place called Bell Creek?" The name rang a bell, faint, rusted, somewhere buried under a decade of forgotten pit stops in dead towns. "I've passed it," I said. "Tiny place, off 42, I think. Not much there." She didn't say anything to that, just went quiet again. Bell Creek. I hadn't thought about that place in years. Something about the way she said it made it crawl under my skin. I adjusted my grip on the wheel, turned the heater down. Suddenly felt too warm in the cab. We drove like that, in fragments. Little questions, careful pauses. Her voice came in like raindrops, spaced apart, impossible to predict. And every time she spoke, it felt less like conversation and more like an interrogation I didn't know I was failing. She asked about my daughter, how old she was if we were close. I gave vague answers, said her name was Sarah, said we weren't talking much these days. Rachel didn't press. She just listened, silent and still. Sometimes she'd repeat things I'd said. 15 years, she murmured once. "What's that?" I asked. "Nothing." But it wasn't nothing, it was a clock. ticking, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone on the road. I felt watched, not by her, well, but by something sitting just behind her eyes. We didn't talk much after that. The highway stretched out like a flat ribbon. No curves, no color, just asphalt and the soft hum of rubber over distance. Every now and then, I glanced at Rachel, still rigid, still staring, and every time, I felt like I was interrupting something silent and dangerous inside her. She didn't fidget, didn't yawn, didn't even blink much. The desert rolled out on both sides, endless and empty. And I started thinking maybe I'd made a mistake picking her up. Not because she was dangerous, not exactly, but because she made the air too quiet. We passed a diner with one broken light. She didn't ask to stop. Another hour went by, then two, and then, without turning her head, she said it. "Take the next exit." I looked over. "You sure?" She nodded once. "Exit 42. I blinked. There's nothing off exit 42 but dust and fences. Closest thing to a town is a gas station that's been closed since the Clinton years. She didn't respond, just repeated gently, "Exit 42. So I slowed down, watched for the sign, and there it was. Crooked, faded, riddled with bullet holes like everything else out here. Exit 42. White letters peeling off metal. No name, no arrow. I took it anyway. The off-ramp curved into silence. The lights from the highway disappeared behind us. It was the kind of dark that felt thick in your mouth, like swallowing ash. There was no town, no buildings, just dirt road, fence posts, and a half-collapsed billboard for a local casino that probably hadn't existed in 20 years. I let the truck roll forward until even the pavement gave up. Rachel leaned forward slightly. "You can stop here." I did. We sat in that dead silence for maybe 10 seconds, maybe 10 years. I couldn't tell. She reached for the door handle. I cleared my throat. "You sure you're good out here? I mean, there's literally nothing." She paused and hand still on the door, then looked at me, the first time all night. And just like that, she wasn't a stranger anymore. Her eyes, God, her eyes weren't afraid. They weren't lost. They were ready. "I'm exactly where I need to be," she said. She opened the door. Cold night air swept in. Desert dust. Stillness. She stepped out. One foot, then the other. Closed the door behind her with a soft click. No thank you. No goodbye. She walked forward, into the dark, without looking back. I watched her go. She didn't slow down, didn't stumble, just kept walking until her outline dissolved into shadow, like she belonged to it. I stayed there another minute, maybe more, truck idling, mind spinning. Then I put it in gear, turned back toward the road, and left her there, alone, or maybe not. The road back felt different, like I'd driven out of one world and into another. The air felt heavier, the headlights dimmer, the steering wheel colder beneath my hands. I kept glancing in the mirrors, half expecting to see her there, still sitting in the passenger seat, still watching. But there was nothing, only me, Michael Whitaker, and the long, low moan of the highway breathing under the wheels. I made it back to Colorado in 2 days. The drive was quiet, uneventful, empty, almost peaceful. The kind of trip where your brain starts filling in the silence with old regrets and unanswered questions. I tried not to think about her. I failed. When I pulled into the trailer park, the lights were already off in most of the units. My own place looked exactly the same. Single porch light flickering, screen door hanging a little loose on the left hinge. I killed the engine. Sat there for a second longer than I meant to, then stepped out, boots crunching over the gravel. The door opened before I reached it. Michael, it was Linda, my ex-wife. She still had a key, still showed up sometimes when Sarah was in town. She looked tired, worried. "I didn't know you were coming back tonight," she said. I shrugged. "Wasn't planning to. Job wrapped early." She didn't move from the doorway. "What's wrong?" I asked. She hesitated. "Some detectives came by." That stopped me. "Detectives?" She nodded. "2 of them, from Nevada. They were asking about your last route. Said something about a missing girl." My mouth went dry. I stepped inside past her. "They say her name?" I asked. She shook her head. "No. Just said she was seen getting into a long-haul rig at a gas station. Gave them your name. They didn't accuse you of anything. They just asked questions." I sat down at the table. The kitchen was too bright. Linda stood across from me, arms crossed. That look on her face she used to get when Sarah was sick, and she was pretending not to panic. "Michael, did you pick someone up?" I looked at her, really looked, and I realized if I told her the truth, she'd never believe me. Not because it was unbelievable, but because it was too ordinary. A girl, a ride, a desert exit. So I lied, gently. "Just a hitchhiker, quiet girl, said she was headed west, dropped her off before the California line." Linda didn't look convinced, but she nodded. She reached into her coat pocket, handed me a card. One of the detectives had left it. Name, badge number, phone, printed clean and cold. "They said they might be back," she said. I sat there a long time after she left. Just me, and the card, and something else too. A feeling I hadn't had in years, that I had brought something home with me. Not her, something else. Something she left behind, without touching a thing. The card sat on my table for 2 days. I didn't call. I didn't throw it away either. I just looked at it sometimes, like it might change if I stared long enough. Like the name on it would disappear and take the whole problem with it. But it didn't. I didn't sleep much. Drank a little more than usual. Couldn't shake this feeling, like someone had rewound my life a few inches and something vital had shifted out of place. I kept seeing her in my head, Rachel, sitting in that seat, motionless, quiet, staring out into the dark. Her name echoed, over and over. Rachel. Then, on the 3rd day, I saw her again, not in person, on the screen. It was a local news segment, the kind that plays in the background while you're heating up leftovers. I wasn't even paying attention until I heard the words. Authorities are continuing their search for 22-year-old Rachel Carson, last seen outside Ely, Nevada. I turned to the screen, slowly. There she was, same hood, same face, same stillness. Not a missing girl, not anymore. A missing person with a name. The newscaster said she had no known family, no recent contacts, no phone records, just one blurry surveillance photo, a still frame pulled from a gas station camera. Rachel, standing beside a semi-truck, my rig. I stepped closer. The angle was bad, low light, washed out, grainy, but there was no mistaking it. That was me. Michael Whitaker, standing beside the truck like it was just another day, holding a coffee cup, looking away, like a man who had no idea his life had already changed. And then, the strangest thing. The news cut to another photo. Not Rachel, a woman, older, late 20s, maybe early 30s, Long dark hair, faded smile, soft eyes. The caption below read, Margaret Carson, missing since 1995. Something clicked, not like a light bulb, like a gun hammer pulling back. Carson, the name. It stuck in my throat. Margaret Carson. Where had I heard that before? And then I saw it, on the shelf. An old box I hadn't touched in years, dusty, crushed a little on one side, full of old clippings, fuel receipts, photos from the road. One of those things you keep just to prove you were ever alive. I pulled it down, started flipping through. There it was, near the bottom, a folded up newspaper page, yellowing at the edges. Headline read, Young woman missing after apparent accident near Bell Creek. Margaret Carson. I stared at her face again. Same soft eyes as Rachel, same jawline, same quiet in her expression. And right there, in the corner of the photo, blurry but visible, a girl, 8, maybe 9 years old, standing next to her mother. I dropped the paper, backed away from the table like it might burn me, because I remembered that night now. Bell Creek, the crash, the silence, and the girl I hadn't seen. Not really, not until now. I didn't sleep that night. The house was too quiet. Every creak in the walls felt like footsteps. Every gust of wind against the trailer made me sit up straight, listening. I left all the lights on. I don't know why. Like brightness could stop a memory from crawling back through the cracks. The old newspaper sat on the table, still unfolded, still watching me. Margaret Carson and her daughter, Rachel. She must have been 8 or 9 when it happened. That means she would have been 22 now, exactly like the report said, and she had said it herself. Exit 42. Bell Creek, on purpose. She knew where to get out because she had been there before, or worse, because I had. That realization settled into my chest like wet cement. I needed air. At dawn, I stepped outside. Gravel crunched under my boots. Familiar, grounding. The sun was just starting to smear gold across the edges of the sky. And that's when I saw it. My truck, parked right where I left it. But something was wrong. At first, I couldn't tell what. It looked untouched. Clean. Too clean. I opened the driver's door slowly. The inside was silent, normal. Then I saw it. Something tucked just beneath the dash, near the edge of the seat. A small folded piece of paper. Pale, smooth, deliberate. I reached for it with fingers that suddenly felt too thick. It wasn't paper. It was a photograph. Old, glossy. And as soon as I turned it over, my stomach dropped. It was a picture of a car. The car, from Bell Creek, back in 1995. The front caved in. The passenger door twisted. Headlights still on, casting warped shadows into the trees. And in the foreground, 4 men. Us. Me, Jonathan Ellis, Travis Monroe, Danny Hughes, blurry, panicked, mid-motion, like someone had caught the moment just after it happened. I stared at the photo for a long time, then flipped it over. On the back, written in neat, small handwriting, 4 boys ran, 1 girl died, you were the driver. My blood ran cold. I looked around instinctively. Nothing. No one. But someone had been here, recently, close enough to get into the truck, quiet enough not to leave a trace. I dropped the photo. My hand was shaking. Rachel hadn't just found me. She had been watching, listening, planning, not just for a week, not even a year, for 15. And now, I didn't know where she was, only that she had never really left. Back then, it was just supposed to be a weekend. We were kids, barely out of high school, 4 of us, drunk on freedom, cheap beer, and the idea that the world owed us something for being young. Jonathan Ellis was the one with the car. Silver Pontiac, rust around the fenders, smelled like gas and cologne. Travis Monroe brought the whiskey. Danny Hughes brought the jokes. And me, Michael Whitaker, I brought the calm. I always did. We weren't bad kids, just dumb. And one night, that was all it took to turn dumb into deadly. It was late, real late. The kind of late where the road stops feeling like a place and starts feeling like a tunnel. We were cutting through a back route past Bell Creek. Travis had taken a wrong turn. There were trees on both sides, tight and dark, like they were closing in. We were laughing, arguing about something. I don't remember what. Probably music, or girls, or who'd puke first. And then, the impact didn't sound real. It wasn't a crash like in the movies. No screech, no dramatic flip. Just a thud, sick and soft. And the car jerked like it hit something half alive. Then silence. Jonathan was driving, but I was in the passenger seat, wide awake. I saw it, or thought I did. A blur, movement, a shape crossing the road fast. We stopped. All 4 of us got out. The headlights were still on, illuminating the road in that yellow, almost holy light. And there she was, a woman, mid-20s maybe, dark hair, lying on her side, her dress torn at the hip, blood pooling beneath her. She wasn't moving, not screaming, just there. Danny was the first to say it. She ran out. We didn't even see her. Jonathan was pale, ghost white, shaking. She came out of nowhere, man. Jesus, she just appeared. No one's around, Travis said. No cars, no cameras. We should go, right now. I stood there staring at her, and then I heard it. A noise, soft, small, behind us. We turned. There was a child standing at the tree line. A girl, 8, maybe 9 years old, frozen, barefoot. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides. We didn't speak. We didn't move. She just stared, then turned and ran into the woods. Jonathan panicked. Travis cursed. Danny laughed. Not from humor, just fear. And me? I opened my mouth and said the words I've never forgiven myself for. We didn't kill her on purpose, as if that made it better, as if that was enough. Travis grabbed a tarp from the trunk. Jonathan backed the car into the ditch. We wrapped her in silence and dirt and left no cross to mark the spot. We swore we'd never talk about it, and for years we didn't. We moved on, or pretended to. Jonathan started a business. Travis moved to Alaska. Danny joined the reserves. I got a job behind the wheel and never stopped moving. But the past, it doesn't stay buried. It waits. And that girl, the one at the edge of the trees, she saw everything. Her name was Rachel Carson, and she remembered what the 4 of us tried to forget. I used to think forgetting was a kind of mercy, that if you buried something deep enough, behind time, behind other mistakes, it would lose its shape, fade, rot into dust like everything else we choose not to look at. But some things don't rot. Some things grow teeth. After the photo, after seeing myself again in that night from 1995, I knew I had to find the others, not to confess, not even to warn. I just needed to know if I was next. First, I called Jonathan Ellis. No answer, just voicemail, chirpy and professional. You've reached J. Ellis & Co. We're out right now, but leave a message. I didn't. I searched his name online, Local news archives, obituaries, anything. And I found it. Local businessman found dead in home. No signs of forced entry. The article was a week old. He died in his sleep, supposedly. Natural causes, they said. But he was 44, healthy, had just run a half marathon the month before. No drugs, no alcohol, just dead. There was no autopsy. I called his brother, posed as an old friend from high school. We talked for 5 minutes. He mentioned something strange, that Jonathan had been nervous lately, said he thought someone was watching him, thought maybe it was paranoia or stress. It wasn't. Next was Travis Monroe. He'd left the country, moved to Alaska sometime after 2002, off-grid type, lived in a cabin on the edge of a lake, barely reachable by road. I found a contact number through an old freight company he'd worked for. It rang 3 times, then someone answered, but didn't speak. "Travis," I said, "this is Michael Whitaker." A pause. Then, "She was here." His voice was rough, shaken, like it hadn't been used in days. "What do you mean?" "She came here a week ago, said she was lost. Her car broke down. I let her in, gave her food." I closed my eyes. "Travis, I didn't recognize her until the second night." That stopped me cold. "You're alive," I whispered. "For now." The line went quiet. Then in a voice almost too low to catch, "She told me what she was doing, said I wouldn't understand, that it wasn't about revenge, it was about balance, about making the weight of the world even." I swallowed hard. "Where is she now?" "I don't know," he said. "She left in the middle of the night, took nothing, but she left something behind." "What was it?" Silence, then softly, "My name, etched into the frost on the window, with a date." "What date?" He didn't answer. The line went dead. I called back 6 times, no answer. The next morning I tried again. Number disconnected. 2 days later I found a headline on an Anchorage news site. "Man found dead in remote cabin fire. Cause unknown." No survivors, no official cause. Just one line that caught my eye. "No visible signs of fire accelerant. Authorities suspect electrical fault, but investigation is ongoing." There were now only 2 of us left, me and Danny Hughes. I tried calling Danny that night. The number rang, then clicked. "Michael," he said. His voice was calm, too calm. "You heard then?" "I did. She's coming for us, isn't she?" "She already came for them." A pause. "Do you remember what we did?" I closed my eyes. "Every day." Danny exhaled. "Then you know what comes next." And he hung up. I never heard his voice again. It came on a Thursday, the kind of day that slips by without leaving a mark. Gray sky, wind low, radio off. I was parked outside the truck stop just off I-80. One of those places where everything smells like fryer oil and old carpet, and the coffee tastes like rust. I just finished checking the tires. Climbed into the cab, shut the door, and there it was and waiting on the seat. A flash drive, no note, no case, just black plastic and silence. My name was written on the side in red ink. Not driver, not Michael, but Michael Whitaker, full, deliberate. I stared at it for a long time. Then I plugged it into the dashboard. The screen flickered, then went black, and her voice filled the cab. "Rachel." But not the quiet, guarded voice I'd heard in person. This one was different, cold, measured, certain. "You said my name like it was just a name," she said. "Rachel, like it didn't mean anything. Like I hadn't carried it through 15 years of silence." Her tone didn't rise, it didn't break. I watched you, Michael. I watched all of you. I learned your roots, your habits, your lies. I followed the shape of your lives until I could wear them like a second skin. The audio crackled, like wind through a cracked door. My mother's name was Margaret Carson. You remember her, or at least, you remember what you left behind. My throat tightened. You told yourself it was an accident, that it wasn't your fault, that she came out of nowhere, but you didn't stop to find out who she was. You didn't call the police. You didn't check if she was breathing. The voice paused, and then, quieter. I was 9 years old, Michael. I watched you wrap her in plastic. I watched you bury her without a prayer. I counted how many shovels it took to make her disappear. I sat frozen. The cab felt too small, too warm. My skin itched. I've never asked for revenge, she said. This is not about punishment. This is about truth. Another pause. I could hear her breathing. You get to make a choice now. You can tell the truth, or you can live the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, just like I did. Click. The recording stopped. The screen blinked out. I yanked the flash drive and threw it onto the floor. My hands were shaking, my mouth dry. And then the silence returned. But it wasn't the same silence anymore. It had a voice now, and it wore my name like a death sentence. I told myself I wasn't running. I packed fast, grabbed my keys, a half-empty duffel, tossed in the bare minimum. No goodbyes, no plans. Just a direction, west, back the way I came, back to exit 42. The road felt different now, like the blacktop had memory, like it knew what I'd done and was leading me not forward, but back. Each mile ticked by slower than the last. I tried to convince myself I had a reason, that I was going back for answers, for closure, for some kind of control. But deep down, I knew exactly what I was doing. I wasn't chasing Rachel. I was driving straight into her hands. Halfway through Utah, I noticed it. The GPS, the little screen that sat on my dash, always calm, always reliable, started to glitch. First, the map froze. Then it reloaded. And then, without warning, it rerouted. The new destination just blinked. Exit 42. No address, no ETA. My fingers hovered over the touchscreen. I didn't touch a thing. It was already locked in. I stared at the map for a long moment, that tiny digital highway pulsing like a heartbeat, then let my foot fall heavier on the gas. The weather shifted as I crossed into Nevada, the sky thickening, clouds hanging low like they were holding their breath. Wind picked up, dust licked across the windshield. Then, around mile marker 308, the steering got heavy, not a flat, not wind, something off. I gripped the wheel tighter, fought it as it drifted left, then snapped back to center. The dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree. Brakes, malfunctioning. Stability control, off. ABS, offline. What the hell? I veered toward the shoulder, pumping the brakes. Nothing. Pedal to the floor. The engine didn't die. It roared louder, like something else had taken over. I yanked the wheel, skidding sideways. The trailer groaned. Rubber tore against gravel. And then, silence. I came to a stop. Dust filled the cab. My lungs burned. My heart hammered like a fist on the inside of a locked door. When I looked up, the sign was waiting. Exit 42, straight ahead. No lights, no cars, no turning back. I sat there for a long moment, both hands on the wheel, knuckles white, trying to decide if I was going to finish what she started or just disappear. Then I turned off the engine, opened the door, stepped into the wind. and walked toward the exit, toward the dark, toward her. I walked for what felt like hours. The road curved away behind me, swallowed by the dark, until it no longer felt like a road at all. Just packed earth and the sound of boots pressing down memories that refused to stay buried. No moon, no sound, only the wind, whispering through dead grass like it was reciting names I had tried to forget. And then I saw her, standing in the middle of the field, no light around her, no weapon in her hand, just stillness. Rachel Carson. She didn't speak, didn't move. She waited. I stopped 10 feet from her, could barely see her face in the dark, but I didn't need to. I knew who she was, who she had always been, and what I had always been too. The wind shifted, lifted her hood just enough to show her eyes. They weren't angry, they weren't sad, they were tired. And behind her, I saw them, 4 shallow mounds, uneven, fresh. 3 of them already filled, the 4th one still open, waiting. I felt something collapse inside my chest. She finally spoke, voice flat, but calm. "You came." I nodded. Did I have a choice? Rachel tilted her head. "You had one 15 years ago." I looked at the graves. One had a metal dog tag pressed into the dirt. Another had half a boot sticking out from the edge, like the ground was spitting them back out. My voice cracked. "You killed them." Her eyes didn't flinch. "No, they killed themselves. I just reminded them what they did." Silence stretched out like the sky, wide and black and merciless. She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a phone. "You're going to speak," she said, "on record, your voice, your truth, every word. And when you're done, you walk, free. That's the deal. And if I don't?" Rachel glanced toward the open grave, didn't say a word. She didn't have to. I took a step forward. My hands were shaking. "I didn't mean to kill her," I said. Rachel raised the phone. Recording. "Say your name," she whispered. My throat tightened. "I am Michael Whitaker." My voice echoed in the cold. "And I killed Margaret Carson." She lowered the phone slightly, not stopping the recording. I kept going. "I was 28. I was in the passenger seat, but I told them to run. I said we didn't have to call the police. I said she was already gone. We buried her without a name, without a prayer." Rachel blinked, just once. "And we left her daughter to watch it all from the trees," I finished. She stopped the recording. The silence after was louder than anything I'd ever heard. Rachel didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just looked at me. And I knew, whatever she was going to do next, it was already decided. She didn't play the recording back. She didn't threaten me with it. Didn't tell me what came next. She just stood there, holding the phone, as if the weight of what I said needed a few minutes to settle into the dirt around us. And I let it. I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't beg. Rachel looked down at the 4th grave, then at me, and then, without a word, she walked past it. No gun, no knife, no shovel, just footsteps through dry grass, and the sound of someone choosing not to become what the world had tried to make her. She was halfway gone when I finally called out, "Why didn't you finish it?" She stopped, didn't turn around. The wind caught her coat, lifted her hood. And then, quietly, gently, like she wasn't speaking to me at all, because someone has to live with it. Then she kept walking, away from the graves, away from the past, away from me. And I stayed. I stayed until sunrise, Knees in the dirt, hands on my face, the phone still recording, my voice still on the wind. By the time I stood up, my bones ached. The graves didn't look like graves anymore. They just looked like the truth, marked by silence. I made it back to town, parked the truck, opened the laptop, and uploaded the file. No title, no explanation, no tags, just audio. 27 minutes of me telling the world what I did. I didn't expect anything to come of it, but within hours it spread. First local, then national, then everywhere. Trucker confesses to long-buried crime in haunting audio file. 4 men, 1 grave, 15 years of silence. It went viral. Comment after comment. Rage, horror, forgiveness, confusion. And buried deep in the flood, a single message. No username. Now we're even. Every year on March 15th, someone leaves flowers at exit 42. Not a lot, just a small bundle. Desert wildflowers, sometimes fresh, sometimes clearly picked days before. Always tied with twine, always placed carefully at the base of the old sign that leans east. As if even the metal got tired of standing straight in a place like that. There's no plaque, no name. Just a spot where the wind always sounds like it's trying to speak, but never quite says anything. Locals drive by and glance. Truckers honk once, maybe twice out of habit or respect. No one really knows anymore. The stories faded some over time, like all stories do. Some say it was a ghost that left the confession. Some say the man who spoke it never existed at all. And some, the ones who were there, who remember the headlines, who clicked play on that file in the middle of the night and sat still for all 27 minutes. They know it was real. They remember the voice. They remember the quiet. And if you stop your car at just the right time, just after dusk, just before the cold settles in, you might catch it. The echo of footsteps, the shift of dry grass, the sound of someone walking away from a place they never wanted to return to. A girl once stood there, alone, and watched the world bury her mother. Now the world leaves flowers and walks on.